It's Monday.
It's 8 p.m.
And your people gather round your town when things are on the up or things are falling down. Celebrate the high times, stay passionate through the lows, find strength in the chaos, no matter which way it goes. It's not easy being blue. Heartbreak comes in many ways, the hardest times, the darkest days, but all these things get washed away with us, with us. The highs might not come every day, but memories do, and memories stay. Enjoy that moment anyway with us, with us, with us. It's not easy being blue. It's not easy being blue.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday Assessment brought to you by the View from the Medway Fancast. We are sponsored by Snodhurst Used Car Sales and Service Station and Wicked Creative, and we are in partnership with Sports Social Podcast Network and Her Game 2. After 3 defeats with no goals, the Gills made the very long trip to Barrow. And a 103rd minute Robbie McKenzie goal was enough to see the Gills bring home the 3 points. Was it a good performance? Was it a bad performance? We'll look into that now. And tonight I am joined by Rob and Eddie. How are we doing, boys?
Oh, yeah, not too bad.
Recovered after your journey home, Eddie?
Well, we actually stayed Friday night and Saturday night, not in Barrow though, but so I didn't get back till yesterday. So it was all chilled. It was unlike some people who only just made kickoff. The coach didn't get there till quarter past 2, and some people, their train connections went horribly wrong and they got to Barrow at 2:30. So it was a bit hairy, and then getting the train back out of Barrow, we made it by 60 seconds. So yeah, it was one of those.
No, right. So before we start the show, just a little bit of housekeeping, some things that should have brought up last week and some things that I saw announced today. So last week, it was announced that Marcus Wiley had gone to Ep33 United on a season-long loan. Rob, is it just inevitable now that Marcus Wiley will be leaving the club at the end of the season? And do you see this as a good move for him, potentially as a 2-3 month trial to hopefully get himself a contract for next season?
Yeah, I think it's become pretty clear that he's not a league footballer. He works hard, he tries hard. There's clearly some talent there. He scored all them goals at Enfield, and Enfield are playing at that level now, aren't they? So, you know, it's probably his level, and I think if it goes well, he can stay local to where he is currently as well. So I think it benefits him. Hopefully it benefits, you know, Ep33, because, you know, we want Kent clubs to do well. And yeah, hopefully it's a good move all round. And
Eddie, do you think obviously the move probably hasn't worked how both Marcus and the Gills would have wanted? Do you think this could potentially put the Gills off looking this low down the pyramid for another player in the future?
I think they're aware that these things can either be wonderful and you end up with a Tony Cascarino or not. And, like, you know, 1 in 10 is going to come off brilliantly, and maybe 1 in 10 is going to be a reasonable success sort of thing. So I don't think it was worth a gamble, but I think they were aware it was a gamble. And so, I mean, you know, we were looking for a fox in a box, and he did bang him in for fun for Enfield. I mean, I saw him score in the playoff final against Chatham, and it looked like he knew what he was doing at that level, and so worth a go. Obviously, he didn't really, you know, a mixture of injuries and not getting in the team. I think it's fair on him to give him a chance to play the last couple of months, maybe first team football regularly at quite a reasonable level. That gives him a chance maybe to find a new club, because I think we're all assuming that he won't be here next season. But, you know, it was worth a try, but it hasn't worked out. These things happen.
Okay, and another thing was announced today. The Gills have entered the retro kit market and have released the first, I'm sure, of many retro kits from the past. Rob, is this something you like the look of?
Yeah, I think it's nice. I think it's a nice touch. I think it connects the current day fans with the history of the club. I think, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing, and I think if it's another income revenue for the club, then that's only a good thing anyway in the long run. So yeah, let's see where it goes. If this will be the one and only, or if there'll be more, we'll see.
And Eddie, a couple of questions for you on this one. It's been priced at £45, and the current home shirt that you're wearing at the moment is on the website at £46. So there's £1 difference between the current and the retro. Do you think they've priced it too high? And also, do you think the kit that they've released, I think if I'm correct, is a shirt that we got relegated in and performed quite badly in?
Well, yeah, all right. I mean, the pricing, I think maybe depends how many they've ordered. They might not have a huge say in that, in terms of it might depends how many they've ordered. I mean, it makes me feel old because obviously I've got the original. But now being a retro thing, I mean, I love the idea in principle of clubs bringing out retro shirts. I think that's really attractive to a lot of people who maybe are older and don't want to wear the modern day one, but they're comfortable with wearing an old retro one, or just people collecting them, or just having a different choice of what you want to wear match days. So I'm a huge fan of that concept. If I'll be honest, if it was 45 quid, I wouldn't pay 45 quid for the shirt we got relegated in, I must say. There are better and more interesting shirts to be had, but I think that it depends if you can get permission to use like the sponsor's logo, and there's complications, I think, because obviously we had Cool on our shirts and someone's pointed out that they've been taken over or don't exist anymore, and I think there's a slight problem with some of the sponsorship for what shirts we can get permission to make at the moment. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously I'd say like the classic Tony Cascarino shirt with the Zanussi on the front, and then if you wore a jacket over it, it just said anus on the front, and things like that was very popular. Obviously, a lot of people would love to probably have a shirt from the 98, 99, 2000 era as well. And then for older people, there is a company that's not official that deals, but they did do a 78, 79 shirt, which wasn't perfect, but it was a reasonable attempt at trying to make a really a shirt that was quite uncomfortable back in the day to wear. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I think that clubs are suddenly realising, a bit like the Gills wanting to now do more about their history and have a museum and things like this, that it's just been ignored at our club for 30 years. Big clubs have been doing this for at least a decade now. The penny dropped. But I don't, clubs our size still have a history, and people want to see it and know about it and whatever. And I think that bringing out a whole raft of retro shirts, I think will be really popular amongst quite a few people.
I completely agree. Right, we will move on with the show. So our Guess Who. So again, boys, if you know who this is, obviously stay quiet for now. This player has played for, obviously, the Gills, Millwall, Huddersfield Town, Birmingham City, and Barrow. We will come back to that at the end of the show. So we will move on to the lineup. So we started with Jake Turner in goal, a back three of Gale, Beckles and Smith. We had Hutton and Clark at wing backs. We had a midfield three of Mackenzie, Little and Antwi, with Seb Palmer-Holden and Ronan Hale up front. So I'll come to you, Rob. Another game, another mass change in the starting lineup. Were you surprised with any of them?
No, not at all, because the performance in the game before and Ainsworth's reaction after that suggested to me there was going to be a lot of changes. So I was fully expecting a lot of changes, and I think some of them were quite brave changes. For example, for me, putting Turner back in goal, I feel like the run of games that he did have, he done okay. And then as soon as Morris was fit again, Morris was back in there. And I don't think Morris has been overly impressive the last month or so. So I think to put Turner back in is brave, but right, because I feel like he deserves the opportunity to have another run. It was nice to see Antwi in the lineup, see what he could do. Obviously, we'll get onto it, but it didn't last very long. But, it was nice to potentially see how that could go. And 2 up front was relatively exciting as well. So I wasn't surprised, and I was actually quite happy to see what I saw.
And Eddie, obviously you were at the game. What was the talk on the terraces when the lineups came out and they saw Turner in goal?
That's the thing. I'm not his biggest fan. I mean, he's all right, but when the teams came out in the pub on people's phones, people were a bit like, oh, sort of thing. But when they thought about it, is that going to be 2 up front? I think a lot of people are a fan of that. Antwi coming in, people are a fan of that. Obviously, we're not I think, have we won a game without Dak in the team previously? I'm not sure. Obviously, we always like to have Dak in the team. It sounds like he had a knock or something and they didn't want to give that game away. And so they put him on the bench, but he wasn't going to come on. So that's always a worry. But the 2 up front and not having a big lump up front was going to be interesting. But Turner, that was the one that I think most people in the pub went, I'd rather have Morris still. No offence to Turner. I just think, there is a bit of a difference in between the two. But so the rest of it, though, we could all understand. I mean, obviously, the end of the game against Oldham, the reaction from the crowd of, what the effing hell was that? Was interesting because they didn't sing anti-songs against the manager. They just literally went, what the effing hell was that? And I think 80% of the blame I would have given was to the players for that. It was pretty gutless and pathetic, wasn't it? So I'm not surprised there was quite an interesting change in tact and an experimentation. Did it work? It wasn't a great game, and Barrow are terrible. So the jury's out on that, I would say. But in terms of before the game, I was a bit grumpy about Turner, but the rest of it I can understand.
Perfect. We will now move on to the game itself. How are we going to discuss this one? So I'll start with you, Rob. As best you can, discuss the game. Obviously, it wasn't for the faint-hearted, but if you could also touch on, obviously, we've gone with the 2 smaller men up front. If you can just go into detail, if you can, whether you think it worked, whether you think it's something we should stick with for the game coming up this week, or whether you think it was something that's been tried, didn't work, and come Saturday, a big man will be up front again.
Yeah, so firstly, I don't think it mattered who went in goal after all that discussion we just had there, because 0 shots on target suggests that Turner had nothing to do anyway. I don't know. I think Eddie said Barrow were very poor, so it's very hard to judge. The fact we only won 1-0 and we only won that late on in the game against a very poor team would suggest that the 2 small lads up front maybe didn't work. However, I've been saying for weeks that I feel like when you've got a big man, it's too easy just to hit the long ball. It becomes like an easy option rather than trying to play. And I feel like, when we do try and play football, we do look a better team. So the jury's out. I do think there'll be a big man come the weekend. I do personally. I would like to try it again. 2 up front, the 2 smaller lads, but I don't think they will. I think there'll be a big man come the weekend. The game in general, it was a bit of a bore fest, wasn't it? I mean, there wasn't much football played. There wasn't many chances created. There was nothing that really got you excited. You could have fallen asleep, set an alarm for the 90th minute onwards, and you just seen everything you needed to see in the game. You wouldn't have missed anything. I was disappointed Antwi picked up an injury as early as he did, because I was quite looking forward to seeing what he brought to the team. Didn't really get that opportunity. Yeah, look, it was a workman's like performance with a bit of luck getting the late goal. Nothing exciting. 3 points is nice to see after the run of games we've had.
And Eddie, I'll come to you. Obviously, you were there, whether that's fortunate or not. If you could go into your aspects of the game and a few for you to bear in mind. Obviously, there looked like some forgotten men were on the bench. Is that a thing that you think could happen now moving forward? We could see Rowe and a few others come back into the squad as Gareth seems to be trying everyone. And also whether you think now moving forward that this is going to be our formation. I know McCleary, they said, was touch and go. And I think Ainsworth does like his wingers. But for me, this formation suits us. And maybe it's a sacrifice we might have to make going forward, is that we go with the wing backs ahead of the wingers.
Well, personally, I prefer two up front. And bear in mind, these two young lads have not played two together up front all season. So, it's a work in progress. I mean, Hale did hit the post, didn't he, with a low shot. And I like to have a little bit more pace up front than having a big lump up front, I'll be honest. And I think that one of our problems this season has been when we got off to that bright start at the start of the season, and we got some good results, and decent performances. I think when we're playing teams a second time around, some of them have realised how we play and they've set up differently, or set up to stop us playing off the big man, or just, changed it up to stop that main technique, tactic, and our what's plan B, So I think that they've reacted to us, and I just think it's more flexible having two faster, younger people up front. I understand at certain times it might suit a big lump up front. Depends if you've got people proper runners off them, doesn't it? And they're just not isolated, which irritates the hell out of me, because poor old Andrews, he can sometimes win 10 really good headers or chesting it down and wanting to lay off. And there's literally no one close enough to him. And he gets either swamped by opposition defenders or gets shut down. I think it's nice to have both options. And I think it depends who you're playing against. I think Barrow weren't great, so having a bit of pace against them, I think, was better than having a lumpy player, because I think that's easier to deal with, even if you're not a very good team. In terms of trying lots of different players, I mean, we missed Dak in midfield. I think if we'd had Dak in midfield with those two up front, we'd have made more chances. So I'd like to see it repeated with Dak in midfield. As for trying different players, I think that, I'm assuming we thinking the season's over, but that Ainsworth also assuming we're not going to get in the playoffs, and therefore it is maybe giving some players their last chance to see if they're worth keeping. I don't know. Or maybe that certain players have been playing with injury and therefore now it doesn't matter so much, don't break them, sort of thing. Maybe. But I'll be honest, if some of the players we don't rate and then going in the summer, I don't see the point in playing them now. I'll be honest, because we've still got 13 games left. I'd like to not lose 13 games, and some of them are quite hard. And also, some of them are going to be like going to Cambridge. And we do not going to want to get humiliated at Cambridge with Harris and Bonner there and everything else. I mean, it's written in the stars, is it? Nevitt's going to finally score a wonder goal. But I just think that sort of messing about for messing about's sake will just irritate the people who are still going to go to 6 away games, especially. I'd rather like to try and win some games and have some momentum going in the next season, because at the moment I think it's a pretty flat, isn't it?
It is. So what was the noise on the terraces Saturday? Because obviously it was a painful watch, even though obviously it finished on a high. could you see fans being disgruntled still with the team? Was there anything being said?
Well, the thing is, you see, you're down to 237 people. These are the hardcore people that will go to Barrow, even though we've lost the last 3 visits there and we've lost 4 of like 5 or whatever. Those are the people that are going to be at Chesterfield on Tuesday night. Those are the people that will be at Cheltenham on Tuesday night. Those are the people that will basically almost go regardless. And so they'll probably go to away games looking forward to the day out, and then anything's a bonus. And often we come home from away games going, that was a great day out, spoiled by the football. And so they have a different judgment, I think, to once or twice a season away fans or people that only go to home games. I think they're a bit more understanding, but also definitely more drunk, right? So everyone, it's a long way to Barrow. Plenty of time for people to have a beer and everything. A lot of people stayed the night before. Plenty of time to have a beer before, and we're trying to have a nice time out. So even though it was at times a very poor League Two game, and it felt like a fight between 2 bald men over a game. It really did at occasions, and the ball was in the air and head tennis and going nowhere and shanked passes and stuff. But there was a mild grumbling, should we say, but nothing shouted out like you're rubbish or all this, because it was still 0-0. We weren't losing, I think. I think if we'd gone behind, that might have been different. There was frustration we weren't winning, though. And then, like one of my mates, he was completing the 92 at Barrow because he thought that was funny to do it as the last one. And he was going, oh, bloody hell, we're going to do this in style, 0-0. I'm going to complete the 92 with a bloody terrible 0-0 draw at Barrow. And then obviously the goal goes in, and it's absolute proper limbs. I know it's a meaningless game probably in terms of the grand scheme of things, but to finally win at Barrow after 3 terrible trips, plus to win an away game, just to win a game at the moment, it was absolutely fantastic. My only problem with it at the end was we had to leg it for the train, and we made the train by 1 minute from Barrow Station because obviously there was the injury and lots of injury time. And so I couldn't stay to clap the players and everything because I know it wasn't a great game, but a win's a win. And in 20 years' time, most people will just see the result and won't remember it was terrible. They might be interested in looking at the goal time and go, wow, that's late. And then go, oh, that's the first win at Barrow since 1967. But people won't remember how terrible the game was, I don't think. Obviously, before you go to the game, it sounds dour, doesn't it? And even the songs Barrow sing are dour, and it's a dour experience. But a win's a win. And we think that might be the latest goal Gillingham have ever scored. So if you're going to win an away game with the latest goal you've ever scored in your history, we're going to just love the moment. By my calculations, we have scored now 10 goals past the 85th minute this season in the league. So that's a quarter of our goals, and that's won 11 points, 10 goals that late. So it says something about we keep going to the end, if nothing else. Unlike, 92-93 season when we nearly went out of the league and we were letting in last-minute goals almost every week. So.
Perfect. We will now move on to talk about the man in the middle. Ross Joyce was the referee. Rob, how did you think the man did?
I feel like I'm watching the same ref every week at the minute. I think the quality of officiating in League Two this season has been pretty poor. I don't think. I'm not going to say there was no decisions he got right. He obviously got some things right during the game, but I feel like I never feel like he's got control over it from the start to the finish. I don't feel like he ever had control over the game. I don't think he necessarily knew what he was giving, why he was giving it. I feel like sometimes the player told him it was, the player's telling him this is the decision you need to give, and he's giving it. There was one point on the TV, they zoomed in on him and he looked like a lost sheep. He looked like he was looking to his lino to see what decision to give. I don't know what's happened. I don't remember there ever being a season where week in, week out, the ref's been so poor that the overall standard of the league has just been it's been so shocking. And in some cases, it's ruined games. Like Eddie speaks about dire football. I feel sometimes that is down to the teams, how they set up, the performances, etc. Some of it's down to the officials. If a ref is reffing a game in a way where they're blowing for everything, they're giving free kicks for everything, there's no flow to the game. We can't expect a good game of football because the officials aren't allowing it. That's it. Rant over. They're shocking.
And Eddie, what were your thoughts on the man in the middle?
Well, right, a group of us who sit in the rain end, we sort of keep a database of who's really annoyed us. The definitions is how much swearing there is on the phone in terms of how bad they are. But we do keep a database, and Joyce has stitched us up, and he's one of the really poor referees normally. I mean, I groaned when I saw his name was up there. So I'd say that was one of his least shit performances. So he didn't do anything bonkers or utterly mad. We weren't totally utterly stitched up over anything. He got a few things wrong, but nothing that caused people to, absolutely go mental at. Maybe that's because the game was a bit low key. But yeah, I feared the worst when I saw his name. He has done us over more than once. So I was a bit relieved he didn't actually do anything completely that discombobulated us, But as for the level of refereeing this season, it has been very mixed, hasn't it? I think that it's not helped when you're not winning. Say, for example, you're 3-0 up and you have a dodgy penalty given against you, but you still win the game. It doesn't hurt as much, does it? But if you're in a lot of games that are binary, or it's just by one goal either way, and especially if it's the first goal scored, because we're not very good at coming back from that at the moment, then it can define the game, can't it? Look, I'd never want to be a ref, and there is a point of some of the players don't help. Like in Notts County, the play acting by their players of feigning injury, falling over, and grabbing their face when the ball's hit him on the knee or something. It's just like, please, come on, you're not helping. The players have to also cut down on this pretty poor gamesmanship, I think. It's not helping matters. The referee in Notts County did very well to deal with that. But other referees, obviously, like the one we had at Grimsby that absolutely stitched us up, cost us the entire game. You just want to swerve them, don't you? So I think that you can't moan about referees every week because then it loses its impact. So I only really bother to really moan about them if they've been absolutely bonkers. So he wasn't bonkers; he was just mildly irritating.
Yeah,
on a scale of 1 to 10, he was a 6.5, and maybe twice I swore at him. Like my head didn't explode at any point.
I only moaned about the rest because David asked me to. He asked the question, didn't he? So, you asked a question about a ref. I don't, it is. But I agree, it is results based sometimes. Your opinion on a referee performance, because you're seeing it through a different point of view, aren't you? Through the passion of supporting your football club. So if a decision does affect the result against you in a negative way, the ref has had a shocker. But if that decision's gone your way, the ref's had a blinder. So I do. Yeah, it does play a part, but the overall level in League Two this season has not been very good.
We will move on to our man of the matches. Rob, you went for the goal scorer, Robbie McKenzie. What were your reasons?
Yeah. Well, I feel like it was very difficult because I don't think no one stood out. No one stood out. I feel like the majority of the game was spent in the middle of the field, which means the midfielders have got more opportunity to win these awards, I suppose. And I feel like McKenzie was the best out of our midfield options. I do feel like he tried to get the ball down and play. He tried to calm it down at times. He tried to take the sting out of things when there was a bit of sting, which wasn't very often because it was very boring. And then obviously at the end he gets the goal. So I feel like in a game like that, of a standard of the level that we watched and witnessed, I feel like when there's a 1-0 scoreline, the goal scorer gets man of the match. That's it.
No worries, mate. And Eddie, you went for Robbie McKenzie.
I did, for similar reasons as well. I mean, a lot of players had a solid 6.5, 7 out of 10 for the game. Nothing. No one was terrible. But he sort of caught the eye even before the goal, as in a little bit of zip and zest and imagination in midfield, and tried to get it going a little bit when we were plodding a bit. But yeah, in a game bereft of that many really thrilling moments, getting the goal, he sort of like went from possible man of the match to definite man of the match, because like obviously the highlight of the day. So yeah, so I mean he's one of these players I like in the squad, because he's not normally a 10 out of 10 player, but he's a solid 7, and then he can pop up in the right places, and he'll be an 8 sometimes, and he's pretty reliable as well. I think some players are a bit erratic with what you're going to get, and I think with him it's normally pretty predictable in a good way. I'm not dissing him. So yeah, there weren't many other candidates that would put you on the, there was waving a flag at you. So that's why I went for him.
And I went for Robbie McKenzie. Yeah, I said the game lacked quality, and the one bit of quality came at the end. For me, the control was really good for the goal, and the way he took the goal was with quite good composure, considering the time of the game. The players would have known that there was merely seconds. So the way he controlled the ball and then put the ball in the net, for me, that moment of quality won it on its own, because as I said, the rest of the game lacked it. So for the one bit of quality in the game, I've gone for Robbie McKenzie. Just
a quick one on the game. Do you feel, Eddie? You was there. I don't know what your angle of it was, but do you feel we was lucky to end the game with 11 men? That Coleman challenge.
Well, there are 8 posts holding up the away roof, plus a floodlight pylon, plus 4 drains. Right. So trying to see anything out of there is not great. But so unfortunately, I saw it happen, but someone's head was slightly in the way and a post. But from where I was, it looked like innocuous in the sense of like, all right, a hefty challenge, but not a terrible challenge, not a break your leg challenge normally. But sometimes these things happen when it looks like just a full-blooded challenge. Like I wouldn't attach blame to it or anything. I thought he just went. It was a fair, a full-blooded League 2 challenge for the ball. But that was from my angle, quite in the corner with a few bits and bobs in the way. But at the time, I didn't realise until obviously then the people came on and to treat him. Initially, I didn't realise how badly he was injured. It didn't cross my mind that he might have broken his leg, if you see what I mean. So.
Yeah, they were very upset. So I watched the game with Barrow commentary, which was actually very fun. It was more entertaining than the game, because they spent the whole game reminding everyone of what the Newport score was, the Harrogate score was, every other score was, because they're obviously fighting for their lives. And they were very upset by it. And they kept showing the replay over and over again, and they kept slowing it down. And when you slow it down, he looked high and he looked rough. Okay. It looked quite forceful. And slowing it down always makes it look worse anyway. But it looked very much like a red card. And I feel like watching it on the TV, we was quite lucky to end the game with 11 men. But yeah, I was just wondering what the view was, what the reaction was in the stands, really.
At the time, seriously, it didn't really cross our mind. We weren't going, is he going to get sent off or anything? We just thought, that's a hefty that's a hefty challenge. Oh, is he hurt him? Is he really hurt him? Because there'd been an incident just a couple of minutes before when someone went down and they weren't injured and they were just wasting time. And so I thought, is he just doing that? And then no, he's banging the ground like in agony. No, he's hurt himself. But yeah, no, from our angle, we weren't. It didn't cross my mind that he'd get sent off. No. So, but as I say, I didn't have the best of view. So,
Rob, it's as if you knew the script. It's the second point on the takeaways is the tackle. So I'll come to you on that. We do the second point first. Do you think the reactions on social media from Barrow fans is more based on the modern game and VAR now, that potentially if that challenge had gone to VAR, the decision could be different? Because a little bit like you said, the tackle, he kind of slid in quite close to the ball. It wasn't as if he slid a long way. He made the tackle very close. So it was, like I said, quite a forceful tackle. And I'm sure he didn't go in to hurt the guy. But do you think that potentially with VAR, we could have seen a different decision? And that might be why some of the Barrow fans are in uproar, just because of the way the game's moved on now. Because I'm sure in the 60s and 70s, that probably wouldn't, it would have just been play on, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think if there was TV screens at the side of the pitch, he was gone. It was a red. I feel like he's gone for the ball. He's gone over the top of the ball with his studs up. So in the laws of the game, in a Premier League game, that's a red card. And like you said, if the ref had missed that, it would have gone to VAR and it would have been a red card. We're not playing in the Premier League. The ref was there. The ref had a view. The linesman had a view. The full official had a view. They haven't given it. They haven't sent him off. The game goes on. But yeah, look, if we had sat there as Gillingham fans and watched that on TV, and the Barrow man hadn't been sent off, the majority of Gillingham fans, well, not the majority, but a high amount of Gillingham fans would have been on social media saying that's a red card. Why has that not been a red card? So yeah, I can see why, and I'll probably sit here and say it should have been a red card, but it wasn't given. So, and we don't have VAR.
I'd also add slow motion does make things sometimes look worse. I don't think there was any intent there. You can still have clumsiness, obviously. But he got us talking about a moment back in the day when Steve Bruce used to play for Gillingham when he was younger. And we played Newport County in a really bad tempered game. Newport were going for promotion. This 1983. And Tommy Tynan was their main striker for Newport, who and him and Bruce got into a bit of a through the game, lumping each other, basically. And the ref lost control completely. And Tynan whacked Bruce. And so Bruce, and didn't give her anything. And so Bruce went in for revenge and absolutely tried to, annihilate Tynan. And he broke his own leg trying to maim him. So he went off on a stretcher with a broken leg. I mean, tried to absolutely eviscerate Tynan. So different times, I would say, now, what gets given and what doesn't. I think that people have got used to second guessing. I mean, like looking at it in tiny detail, which didn't happen back then. And if you're used to watching Premier League football with VAR, then that things can look worse in slow motion. And so, as I say, my view wasn't ideal, like looking diagonally into the sun, with posts in the way and stuff. So I had one look at it, and then followed the ball, sort of thing, So I think that this is one of the things that sometimes it looks very different if you're sat at home watching it on your laptop rather than being at the game, which is also why sometimes I think people who aren't at the game watch it a bit like they're watching a Premier League game, are far more critical than the people that are at the game that have enjoyed the day and had 3 pints or 5 pints, and they've also had a day out with their mates. We're a bit more forgiving as well. So I think both those things can happen. So I've only seen it about, in normal time back on the video. I've watched the video about twice, but I haven't gone into it in minute detail. But as I say, at the time, some of us even thought he was faking it until he was beating his hand on the ground. So, that's how we felt at the time. But as I say, I didn't have an ideal view.
I feel like sometimes player reaction gives it away a little bit as well. For me, he made the challenge. He got up pretty quickly and moved away from the area. He moved away from the scene of the crime. He stayed away. He hovered around on the fringes for a little bit. Then he came back in to apologise to the player. Then he moved away again. I feel like he was perhaps trying to avoid the ref for a little bit of time. So the ref didn't
fair enough. Don't make his job easier.
I just feel like the player, maybe Coleman's reaction suggested that he knew that he was in a bit of trouble. And he's probably got away with one.
I think it was more, I realised it was serious when other Gillingham players were gathering around that player and seeing how he was. Because that's when it's serious rather than just someone wasting time or whatever, or just a bit of a knock. So, as I say, I don't think it was deliberate or anything. Do you know what I mean? It can just be clumsy, mistimed. We're talking League Two.
Yeah.
Great. We will move on to the top topic. So claims being staked. So Eddie, I'll start with you on this one. So what this
Sorry?
one is, so recently Gareth seems to have picked every single player that is in the Gillingham squad. Have any of them really claimed their shirt? Like, who would you say that has played recently deserves to be in that starting 11?
Well, I mean, if you mean people who most people would want in the team, haven't done anything worse. So, everyone's a big fan of Gale. People would have Hale in the team, obviously. People would have Dak in the team, I think, and all that sort of stuff. Most of us would have Morris in goal by default. Sorry if you disagree. And Beckles, I think, has done all right, although they had a poor game against Oldham. But after that, if you're talking about players that are on the fringes, have they made a case to get permanently back in the team or get a new contract? No one's really shone. No. And the chopping and changing doesn't help up to a point, I think, because we're trying to find a pattern and everything else, aren't we, for next season? And also, it's not fair on certain players if they're thrown in for 20 minutes, I think, to make a judgment on them. So I think that basically the players I really rate have been all right, and the ones I really don't rate have not done anything spectacularly amazing to go, wow, I'm going to change my mind on them. So people like Rowe and Hutton really frustrate me. I mean, at one point, you're talking about the crowd, it just reminded me, there was at one point we had a succession of long throws. And the Gillingham supporters started chanting, long throw again, long throw again, long throw again, allay, allay. And like sarcastically, as this doesn't work. We scored about one goal from a long throw in the whole season. Do something different, please. And so that was about as strong as the criticism got, but it was sarcasm rather than horrible. But things like, so certain players like Hutton and Rowe drive me mad at the moment. And I feel like there's also up front, I'd say Vokes I think he's just past his best, really. And I think, I think that ship has sailed. And then other players, sometimes they're played out of position. There's a bit of if you're a square peg round hole player and you're played out of your best position and then you don't play that well, that's slightly on Ainsworth, I'd say, as well. No one's I'd say in the last month popped up and shot, no, please keep me, and I want to be back in the team. It's a bit the half decent ones have been half decent and the rest have been meh.
Rob, on this, I'm going to now go on to the non-playing staff, so backroom staff, etc. It's obviously we always focus on, we need to make sure, get rid of all the players and the recruitment, etc. Do we need to be looking at everyone within the club? Like in our group chat that we have for the View from the Medway, I threw out a few names earlier. Since the Gallinsons have been here, maybe even pre-Gallinsons, someone like James Russell has been here. Darren Ibrahim's been here as well as the same goalkeeping coach. We've had the same fitness coach. Do we need to be looking everywhere around the club to say maybe fresh faces might do well, might change something, or do we need to be looking more again at the players, or should the Gallinsons literally be looking at everywhere? Is it whether it be the tea lady, whether it be everyone? Is everyone on trial now until the end of the season?
Yeah, I think we're leaving the tea lady out of it. I don't feel like whoever makes the tea is going to make much difference. But yeah, I feel like when any organisation, if any organisation is failing, they have to look at it from the top to the bottom, don't they? And they have to try and work out where it's going wrong at what point and make changes there. So I feel like a football club should be no different. If you've had the same, you've changed your manager 3-4 times but kept a large percentage of the coaching staff around, maybe there is a problem there. Or maybe there isn't, but it definitely needs to be looked at. They all seem like lovely people. Whatever conversations I've had with them at games or, whatever the situation may be, they all seem like lovely people. But that doesn't make them the right people for the job that they're doing. And I feel like, quite often you see managers bring their own staff and, wipe the deck clean completely. Maybe that's just saying it happens more at a higher level. But, sometimes there's a reason why that happens. because, same as having players on 3-4 year contracts. These players are around under 3 or 4 different managers, and, if their attitude's not right or they're not, they're not fulfilling their role to the best of their ability, it causes problems in the changing room. And that can only be the same for staff. So, it's hard to say if they are a problem or if they're not a problem, but, at some point change will happen. These individuals will leave their roles at some point. And only then will we know if they were potentially part of the problem. But it probably does need to be looked at.
And Eddie, I'll come back to you on the last point now, the never say die attitude. You brought up some really good stats in your overview. Obviously, what I think most Gills fans would say that this has been a pretty poor season so far, and a lot of people want a lot of these players gone. But the stats you said earlier proves that in a lot of games this season that they've not given up. We've scored a lot of late goals. We've kept going. So why do you think we are scoring so many late goals this season?
I mean, some of the games are lasting longer. They go into added time, like 13 minutes, and that one, and Newport was 9-10 minutes, wasn't it? So obviously you've got a bit more time to score goals late on, if you see what I mean. I think that's part of one of Ainsworth's best things. He demands and expects people to go to the end. And, I mean, it's bizarre, really, because if we hadn't scored those 10 goals and got those 11 points, we'd be looking over our shoulders at relegation. And, so it saved our arses this season, really. So it's one of the brighter things to think about of this season, actually. The main thing you've got to ask is why on earth we can't score goals normally the rest of the bloody game, So I think that this makes some of the decisions more harder than they might be because of that. Yeah, because they do go to the end. I mean, sometimes it's against not a great side, like, 2 goals against Newport who can't defend, the last-minute goal at Tranmere, the goal at Barrow. We weren't playing Real Madrid at the time. But on the other hand, I've seen enough Gillingham late goals going against us over the last 40 years to, fill a book. And so it's nice to be on the right end of that at the moment more often than not. So that's one of the things to build on for next season. But, the flip side of that is, if someone's playing on the wing and keeps crossing it soft and floaty to the keeper or hitting it straight out or overhitting it or can't beat the first man, you go, well, we'll find someone else who can, So that's my take on it at the moment, I'd say.
Right. And Rob, again, what's your take on it? And is there frustration amongst the fans that we do keep leaving it late? Like, why can't we have these games done and dusted by the 70th minute, that we don't have to be going all gung-ho at the end? Is it something you would like to see us obviously improve, or is it something that you quite like, the fact that Gills are in a lot of tight games and it's always going down to the last minute?
No, I don't like it. It's too much. It's too much. No, I mean, we've every game this season we've started okay, and then there's that first 10-15 minutes we seem to start okay. We think, oh, this could be okay today, and then the middle portion of 40 minutes, 50 minutes, nothing happens, and we think, what? Why have we stopped playing football? Like, why have we stopped playing? And then it gets to the last 10 minutes, and you think, oh, we've got to get something now, and then it's like, oh, we've got no choice but to go for it. It's almost like this group of players need to have no choice but to have a go, to actually have a go. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
When it's tight and it's 0-0, they can kind of peter through the game. Do you know what I mean? But when they've got no choice but to go for it, they actually have to start playing football, putting balls in the box, and things happen. So it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. Like, just play like that for 90 minutes. Like, obviously, throughout a game, we're going to have spells where the other team are on top. This is football. This happens. Like, but it's always that middle 45 minutes, 50 minutes of a game. Nothing happens, but the start and the finish is a different team.
No,
It would
completely
be
agree.
nice to be more consistent with our intensity. I mean, yeah, we can go flat, and if we go a goal behind to a half decent team like we did, we were the better side for a spell at Crewe, and then letting the goal, we never looked like equalising. Chesterfield again, we played reasonably well till we let the goal in. For the first 15 minutes, looked very bright, and then after that, we never really laid a punch on them, and so that has to be looked at. But I feel like sometimes it's a confidence thing and the players don't want to take risks. But if we're in a hole with 10 minutes to go, they feel like they're allowed to take risks, maybe. I think that just attacking the Rainham end in the second half is a natural thing. The crowd get up and get them going and stuff. All you have to do is win a half-decent tackle in midfield, send one of their players flying in the air and the crowd's up for it, come on, or the ref does a bad decision, and the Rainham end can turn into a pretty the 12th man. But sometimes on the flip side of that is we can go flat after a good start for no apparent reason, and that needs to be addressed. If you want to be challenging in the top 7, top 5 next season, you can't do that. You just can't. You have to maintain that intensity, and quite too often we've got off to a poor start in one of the halves after a good spell, and it's just like, come on, lads, this is a pattern as well as our late goals. So
maybe that is confidence, because you're starting a game well, things are going well, you're playing good football, creating chances, but you haven't scored that goal, and it's almost like within them, it's like we're playing really well, but we can't score, and then that confidence drains out of them, and then like you said, you get to a point in the game then where you've got no choice but to risk it. And then they start playing again. I feel like they need to score early in a game when they're on top for that confidence to start building up again.
That would help, wouldn't it?
It would help. We talk about late goals. How often do we score an early goal? It doesn't happen.
We need to set the game up and score first more often. That's a thing we need to do.
We can only hope, can't we? We will move on. Oh, you didn't see that. No, you missed it. So the Guess Who played for Gillingham, Millwall, Huddersfield, Birmingham and Barrow. Do any of you guys have an idea who the player is if you didn't see it quickly?
I didn't see it, but it's Mahoney.
That's what I was going to say as well.
And the player is Connor Mahoney.
To be fair, there aren't many Gillingham Barrow crossovers.
To be fair, it was the Birmingham one that threw me off. I was like, Birmingham? What? But I knew he played for all the others, so.
Yeah, we've had a few correct guesses online. So we will go on to the fan zone. So we will answer some questions that have come in from the people watching. So Dave has said, Dak on the bench injured. Is this our captain next year? Experience and motivating influence in the group. Eddie, did you want to take that one?
Well, given that it sounds like he's quite vocal. I mean, we're not in the obviously dressing room, but by all accounts, more than once he has almost taken the team talk. And he's so motivated on the pitch. He can get very frustrated with some of his teammates, I think, but he's so motivated that even if he can't play every game, I'd have him as captain. Also, at the moment, he's my player of the season. I never expected to say that. I mean, I didn't think he'd play enough games or be that influential that often. I thought he might be an impact player. So I'm delighted with how he's done this season. We all know he's not going to play 90 minutes in like twice a week when we have midweek games. We all understand that. And obviously I was a bit, worried when he didn't play Saturday, but I think that Ainsworth didn't want to give the game away that maybe he wasn't fit. So I put him on the bench just to put the wind up on Barrow. I think the way he's behaving and everything else, you can see him becoming maybe a coach or a manager in the future.
Perfect. Dave's asked another question. Still believe Ainsworth doesn't know his best 11. If players aren't in his future plans, why give them a chance? Rob, did you want to take that one?
Yeah. I agree. I don't think Ainsworth knows his best 11. I feel like it was really strange for me seeing Ewan Williams on Saturday. You know, the man signed for the club. I can't remember the last time he played, and then he appeared. Just, you know, we needed a substitute, and there he was. And I actually don't think he done too bad when he came on. So maybe there is a player in there, but I don't think he does know. And I feel like he's made some signings that would suggest that he wasn't happy with certain areas of the team. Like the Beckel signing suggested to me that he wasn't at all happy with his centre half options. The Hale signing was obviously he knows he needs goals in the team. So I still feel like he's trying to build. He's still trying to piece something together. But we're nearly a whole season into this 2-year plan now, and he's still trying to piece it together, and he's still not 100% sure. But that's probably down to the players as well, because one week he sees something in them and he sees something from them, and the next week he sees nothing from them. And it's like, you know, he's probably calling out for a bit of consistency from some of these lads as well, as much as we are.
Yep, completely agree. Richard has come in. If get rid of 10 players at least. Well, I'll start this one and then I'll let you guys come in. I think we've got 16 out of contract at the end of the season. I think I think it's one of those ones where you talk with your head and your heart, isn't it? I think ask many a Gills fan, they say just get rid of them all. But I think when you're being realistic, I would be very surprised if at least potentially half of those at least get offered a contract. Whether they sign or not is a different thing. Like for me, something like Connor Masterson, good player, injury prone a little bit now. I don't think they're going to just let someone like that go. I feel like he'll get offered a contract. I feel Max Clark, again, another one that's a bit hit and miss with fans. I think someone like him will get offered a contract. And again, up front, we got it clearly likes a big man. I'm not sure on the contract situation. I've heard rumours that Andrews has still got a year left. If he does, for me, you can't keep Vokes. You don't need two big men. But then Ainsworth likes Vokes, trusts Vokes. What do you do? And for me, I think at least potentially half of those they're released, and I think there'll be another half of them that will get offered something. And then whether or not they sign is obviously it's down to them. But you can't go out in a summer and have to sign 13, 14, 15 players. I don't think it's realistic, no matter how much we want to get rid of a lot of these players. I think in football, in terms this day and age, I can't see that happening. I don't know what you two think on that situation. Well,
I will say, for me, when Vokes and McCleary signed, for me, I said at the time to a few of my Gills pals that I felt like Ainsworth wasn't happy with the attitude in the dressing room, and I feel like he brought them two in to be like he's men in there, he's experienced men in there to try and sort it out a little bit, help him along the way, and I feel like they'll still be there next year to do exactly that. But yeah, I think you've got to be realistic. If you get rid of 10 players at the end of the season, that means you've got to bring in another 10, right? So. Or maybe 8, because he wants to cut the squad, so he says so. But then you're hit and miss with them. Are they going to work? So then you're a year down the line with a load of new players and we're in the same position, potentially. It's a gamble, isn't it? For me, it's a gamble. And I'm not sure if it's a gamble that the Gallinsons will take to completely overhaul the squad. I think it'll be a bit at a time. Couple here, couple there. But again, it depends, doesn't it? Because you hear that there's a lot of players out of contract, and how many of them want to be a Gillingham next season? Some of them might not want to. Some of them might listen to us and go, I don't want to play for these lot anymore.
Eddie, what do you think?
I think the 16 counted number, I think that includes a couple of like first-year professionals who are A, going to be cheap, and B, they, probably will hang around, another year if they think they're going to train on and make it. So I think we were going through the list in the pub like the other day, and we just went yes, no, like in a brutal way down the list. And I think it was of the 16, it was keep 3, then keep 2 youth players and bin the rest. Easy said than done, I know. But if you're serious about challenging the top 5 next season, you don't just need players that will be okay. You need good players at that level, but also players that are going to be fit and last the season. So I just don't see the point in signing players who are injury prone. I'd rather sign someone who you can rely on being around. Now, I know obviously we've had different injuries. They haven't been all the same this year like last year. And sometimes you can't avoid it. But, we've had it earlier in the season, we had so many players out. And then we had a whole string of 2 have returned, but 2 more are out. It has not helped our attempt to be consistent or even establish a pattern. So personally, after last season, when suddenly, he came in and suddenly some of these players who do like Deadwood suddenly put in effort and we started the 22-21 game unbeaten run, they saved their asses, didn't they? But I think he's, once bitten, twice shy. I think he will be more, especially after, I'll tell you what, I think the turning point for Ainsworth in his decision making was that Oldham game. And I think he suddenly realised, play like that too often, he's not going to see the end of next season, is he? He's going to get the sack from these players playing like that. And so I think he went from erring on the side of, being realistic. I think he's going to be a bit more, right, you're reasonable, but I can get better. And I think that the Gallantons, given that what they spent on Hale, I think they're serious about backing him. I think we'll spend some money in the summer and we will go for players that will be fit all the time and also more reliable and more consistent, which is what we need. All these players, the thing that baffles me, right, how can we have a 21-22 match unbeaten run and at the start of the season be beating teams like Notts County and Walsall and whatever, and then by Christmas or just after, look like bloody they've never met each other in certain games. I think that Oldham game will be the point where, because the crowd turned and went, what the effing hell was that? I think that was a wake-up call to Ainsworth that he's had an easy ride so far, given how few wins we've had since he had his operation. Now, obviously, people are going to be sympathetic because he has been recovering from that, and that was more serious maybe than a lot of people were led to believe. And we get that. And also, he has said, I need to rebuild. I just feel that some of the players that performed for 8 weeks last season at the end and got another contract, I've had enough of them, I'll be honest. Players like I don't understand how a player like Hutton or whoever, right? He came to us, he had the highest assists in the division from a fullback. And certain other players, if we're going to play people wide, right, the delivery needs to be good from crosses and from corners and set pieces. How many times do we not beat the first man or it's soft and floaty straight to the keeper? I mean, what do they practice? And so I feel like, I know it's not easy to hit a perfect cross all the time. We haven't got Rice playing for us for Arsenal, and we haven't got a set piece coach like Arsenal. But Jesus Christ, I see non-league teams with better crossing, corners, and set pieces than us, right? Non-league teams. I know they're playing other non-league teams, but they have better delivery than us. At quite a low level, I've seen better delivery. Now, you can have a bad day, a windy day, bobbly pitch, right? So you can have bad delivery on one or two, the odd game. But it's a thing for us. Where we sit, we sometimes sing a little song, soft and floaty. Every time we have a corner, it goes straight to the bloody goalkeeper. And we shout, beat the first man, and we bloody never do. Or we overhit it right to the back post. I feel like some of the players, if they were going to be playing for us next season and we're trying seriously about promotion, you need to be better than that consistently. And so I think he will be he'll change more than he might have been thinking after that Oldham game. And we'll see what happens the last 13 games, obviously, if we suddenly play like Brazil, but I don't think we're going to, So.
We can only hope. So on Saturday, we welcome Fleetwood Town to Priestfield. Last 5, Gills have won, lost, 1, and Fleetwood have lost, drawn, 1-1, drawn, Fleetwood do play Walsall tomorrow night, so that 5 obviously doesn't include include the game that hasn't happened yet. So, Rob, how big is the game Saturday? And again, is it really time now that the Gills go back-to-back wins and really push on now for the end of the season, get that momentum and finish on a high?
Yeah, it's massive because the last time they played at Priestfield, we all know what happened. So they can't have another performance like that. They can't have back-to-back performances like that at home because otherwise things are going to get nasty there. Things are going to really turn and nobody wants to see that. You know, the reality is nobody does. None of us do. None of us like that atmosphere. We want it to be more positive than that. But we can only react as fans to what we see on the pitch, to what we're given by our team that we spend money to watch. So it can't happen again. Like, it's got to be better. And hopefully a bit of momentum, positive energy. You know, you got 3 points late on. Hopefully they can carry that forward. Hopefully the coach ride back for the boys at the weekend was good, was positive. You know, hopefully, you know, training's been good and go and get another 3 points. And who knows, we might win 13 in a row and I'll see you all at Wembley.
You never know.
Yeah.
And Eddie, obviously there will be at least one enforced change with obviously Cameron Antwi won't be playing. Would you like to see Gareth stick with the remaining 10 and then obviously potentially add Dak in if he's fit to that 11 just for a bit of continuity, or are you going to expect more changes again?
Well, I'd like to change the goalie, but obviously that's a bit harsh if we just had a clean sheet. But he didn't have much to do, but I'd still change the goalie back. I'd love it if Dak could play. That makes a big difference, just especially if we're going to play the 2 up front with the young lads and not the big front. Man, then they need better service because they didn't have much service on Saturday. So I think that would help a lot. But yeah, a little bit of continuity would help. I think just settle us a little down a bit. But I'll be honest, first goals matter. First goal, if there is one, matters on Saturday because like 2 of our last 3 home games have been like Bromley 4-1. They're a very good side. They just demolished us. But you know, 2 hefty defeats, not just narrow defeats. And Oldham, you know, we won away there earlier in the season and they're a mid-table side, you know, they're not like going for promotion. And, you know, we're 2-0 down before you know it. And we can't let that keep happening. I think that was a moment where the frustrated away for the home fans, just especially the ones who don't go away. And like, you know, we've had a few decent away days this season, you know, and obviously we've drawn quite a few away as well. So if you go away and get a draw as well, you don't feel too bad. So I think that we need to put on a couple of shows at home games just to remind people why they want to renew their season ticket for next season. And for me, basically, to get a bit of momentum and positive feeling towards next season, because that can help with bedding a new team in and having a positive outlook come August, rather than, oh, here we go again. Because the thing is, even if we get off to a good start with the first 6 games, everyone will go, well, we've done this for the last 3 years. We're going to come 17th, you know, so we'd have to then sustain that. But I just think that we just need to score some more home goals and win games, you know, be 2 or 3-0 up and just not have people fretting or grumpy or, you know, because Priestfield in most of my lifetime has been an asset, and also we've been terrible away for most of my life. So we really need to make the most of what can be a real asset. I know the last 2 teams bloody turned us round the wrong way round, bastard. But you know, the Rainham end at full pelt, I love it to bits, warts and all. And I love it when we really get at the other team and we have a little run of corners and set pieces and then attacks wave after wave. I mean, you're old enough to remember like the Pulish years and then the side, you know, the glory years from 95 to 05, you know, attacking the Rainham end. It really was ferocious, or it could be ferocious. It would love us to get that mojo back, because that was worth a lot of points to us back in the day when we were bloody abject away from home, especially sometimes as well. So anyway, I mean, I know we can't make that happen. I really hope we don't play as badly as the second half of Fleetwood, because that's apart from the Oldham game, that's probably the second worst performance of the season. The second half at Fleetwood, gutless. We took the lead, should have made it 2-0. In the second half, we gutless. I mean, I don't boo them off, but I flounced out the ground without clapping, which for me is like real criticism.
Right, and I will once again thank our sponsors, Snodhurst Used Cars and Service Station and Wicked Creative, and also our partners, Her Game 2 and Sports Social Podcast Network. We're also on Facebook on The View from the Medway. We're on X, The View from the Medway Fancast at TVFTM. As said last week, we've now got over 1,000 followers on that. So thank you very much. And yeah, please engage with us, and we do our best to respond when we can. And we're also on YouTube, The View from the Medway Fancast. So we will be back next Monday to go over the Fleetwood game. Chris will be joined by a panel for that one. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we look forward to seeing you all again at 8 p.m. next Monday. Up the Jills.
The View from the Medway.